Groom runs out of his own wedding moments after exchanging vows. You just want your wedding day to be perfect. That's why you put up with the months-long headache of picking the right venue and deciding whether the bridesmaids' dresses should be a dusty rose or maiden blush. You don't, however, plan for the headache of your husband running off after the ceremony. Well, Krista Boland and her fiancé, Jeremy Bourassa, had a long 5-year engagement and were just itching to call each other husband and wife. Once the big day arrived, the ceremony seemed to be playing out well. That is until Jeremy ran off, but if you asked him, he had a good reason for it. Krista Boland and Jeremy Bourassa were lucky enough to meet each other early in life. The Cottage Grove, Minnesota couple had been attached at the hip for nearly 15 years, and they'd been through a lot together. The two brought their son into the world in 2009, and then had a second son just a few years later. After spending over a decade together, people wondered why the nearly perfect couple still hadn't tied the knot. Aside from the fact that they were happy without a legal document, life just kind of got in the way. Krista's family experienced a major setback in 2016 when a house fire took over her beloved niece and nephew's home. It was a fiery nightmare that Krista and her family couldn't wake up from. And this was just the first time the flames took something from Krista's family, who was still trying to process and heal from the last fire. Shortly after the first tragedy, a fire engulfed Krista's sister's home. No one was injured, but it was another blow to the already fragile family. Because Krista and her beloved boyfriend were so close, Jeremy felt all of her pain. The recent tragic events got Jeremy, who was a mortgage loan processor and an aspiring professional DJ, thinking, what if he applied to be a part-time firefighter? Though Krista initially had obvious fears, she was supportive of and touched by his decision. And so he started taking training courses. After watching his wife and her family go through so much pain at the hands of house fires, Jeremy put himself on the front lines to aid those in the midst of fire-related tragedies. Wedding bells were ringing. Life was still busy, as Krista being in nursing school and her mother passing away prevented the couple from planning the wedding of their dreams. But in the summer of 2017, they finally sat down and planned their big night. It was going to be magical. But once again, the couple's wedding plans were met with an unfortunate coincidence. Just weeks before their celebration of love, the venue canceled on them, leaving Krista and Jeremy anxiously scrambling for a new last-minute venue. They desperately searched near and far for traditional venues to hold their ceremony, but to no avail. They had no choice but to settle on having their wedding at the St. Paul Park, Minnesota firehouse, where Jeremy worked. Thankfully, the chief was cool about the frantic timing. Though they didn't initially expect their venue to be adorned with fire hoses and an abundance of red, Krista and Jeremy rolled with the punches and held their wedding on September 1st, 2018. And no, Jeremy wasn't on the clock despite being at his place of work. It was a wonderland of happiness as Krista and Jeremy said, "I do," completely ecstatic to finally be able to call each other husband and wife. Some things are truly worth waiting for. The end. Yeah, not exactly. Once they started posing for wedding photos, chaos ensued. The firehouse was no longer a calm fairy tale castle, but rather a panic room as firefighters started suiting up to take on a nearby house fire. Most of the calls the fire department got were regarding minor incidents, but this was no minor fire. Jeremy, then 39 years old, watched as his colleagues rushed through the firehouse. He gazed at his blushing bride, knowing that her groom wanted to help his crew take on this fire. Krista initially shook her head no. "I was like, nope, you're taking pictures. Don't even think about it," Krista, then 32 years old, relayed in an interview. Jeremy did as his new wifey asked. That is until a second call came to the firehouse. The firefighters really needed backup. "You could hear the guys on the scene. You could hear the sound of their voice," Jeremy said. He gave Krista one last look, this time more apologetically, and she was like, "Go, just go," he continued. Jeremy whipped off his suspenders and unbuttoned his dress shirt before leaping into his bulky firefighter gear and taking off to help save the day. "He moved faster than I've ever seen him go," Krista recalled. "Part of why I sent him to that fire is I've been there to experience it. After what's happened to our family, I'm probably the biggest worrywart ever. Every time he goes out to a fire, I'm always worried. You always have that pit in your stomach," Krista disclosed. Jeremy and his crew spent 2 hours battling the angry flames, and thankfully not one person was injured. Once the job was finished, Jeremy's captain urged him to go enjoy his wedding day. There were 150 people waiting for him at a nearby reception hall the couple had rented. The guests did a standing ovation when he came back. He was exhausted, but he didn't even show it. He celebrated the night and had a fantastic time, Krista said, gushing. While Krista's and Jeremy's wedding definitely turned out to be a fiery night to remember, they're not the only couple whose wedding day was laced with surprises at every turn. A wedding reception in Hungary had everything any newlywed couple could dream of. The party was filled with hundreds of friends and family members, which made the celebration that much more joyous for the couple. The night was filled with love, laughter, and optimism as every dish, speech, and toast had gone according to plan. There was one impromptu moment, on the other hand, that took the bride by surprise. Months of rigorous planning couldn't have prepared the bright-eyed lovebirds for this. The dance floor, once a mishmash of happy, tipsy, and unfettered wedding-goers, quickly dissolved, opening up the floor for a special dance number. See, the glowing Hungarian bride has 8 siblings, yikes, and all of them devised a plan to surprise their delighted sister on their harmonious day. Together, they practiced their dedicated choreography to prep a number for her big day. As the curious guests and the perplexed bride and groom were instructed to shuffle to the edges of the dance floor, the bride's 4 brothers gathered at the center of the barren, makeshift stage. They were in for a treat. While the rehearsed dance was in sync, the boys, 2 of which were grown men, took to the stage to jive to the Backstreet Boys' 1999 smash hit, I Want It That Way. The brothers should have frosted their tips in homage to the famed boy band. The 2 blonde cuties took the front row, while the charismatic older bros acted as their backup dancers. It was hard not to crack a smile at the youngsters' tiny powder blue suits. The boys' moves made for a late 90s dream come true. After a charming routine matched to the beat of the Backstreet Boys' sweet-sounding voices, the brothers simultaneously whipped sunglasses out from inside their pockets, put the shades on, and posed in the center of the dance floor. The fun didn't end there, however. Next, the bride's 4 long-haired sisters took center stage. Considering the smiling beauties replaced their pointy stiletto heels with flat, white tennis shoes, the crowd knew some stellar moves were to be expected. The ladies danced to the Exciters' upbeat 1983 soul tune, Tell Him. And boy, was the crowd excited. The bride's sisters hopped and swung their hips with wide grins. The bride couldn't control her jubilant reaction as she laughed and clapped along with her favorite people. She had her pals, her kin, and the love of her life to enjoy the surprise show with. There was more to come. When the sisters scrammed, the brothers returned to the stage with a vengeance, having ditched their swanky blazers and vests. They started the dance segment with brotherly secret handshakes. The 4 bros mysteriously started the choreo with their backs to the audience. The quartet spun around and performed a modern step dance of sorts, as techno music roared in the background. The moves were impressive, especially considering the youngest brother had to have been just 7 years old. He was a pro, not a wink of stage fright in sight. Out of breath, the brothers walked off the dance floor, making room for the returning sisters. Their second round of moves were elevated as well, the girls having rocked it to Meghan Trainor's 2015 song, Better When I'm Dancin'. Soon enough, Shreya Ghoshal's groovy 2012 Indian tune, Radha, filled the room. In unison, the bride's sisters performed a number synonymous with the Bangles choreography in the 1986 Walk Like an Egyptian music video. The onlooking friends and family members went wild when the 4 brothers joined their siblings at the center of the room. Every once in a while, random outbursts of encouragement could be heard over the continuous clapping. Happiness coated every inch of the room. The bride's joy and elation soon morphed to a melancholy version of appreciation and gratitude. She covered her face as she teared up a bit, obviously overwhelmed with a plethora of beautiful emotions. After the family performance wrapped up, the 8 siblings plus their newlywed sister and new brother-in-law banded together for a warm, heartfelt group hug. The moment was so soft it could bring tears to a biker gang's member's eyes. The bride's siblings touched her heart as well as many others. The uplifting scene was taped for the wedding video, but it also made its way to YouTube, having garnered nearly 13 million views. Sometimes it's nice to lend the spotlight to those who matter. It may just make your day. Unfortunately, breakout dance routines have now become a tired wedding trend, as they're not quite as surprising as they once were. But modern fantastical weddings have proven to offer so many surprises, and one California couple received quite the shock at their dreamy ceremony. Samantha Carish and Taylor Sinclair met for the first time in 2010 at a minor league baseball game. A member of the Visalia Rawhide, Taylor fell for Sam as soon as he spotted her in the stands. Despite the unique circumstances of their meeting, a relationship soon blossomed between the two. The couple dated long distance for a time until Taylor decided to relocate to California permanently to be with Sam. After 4 years, Taylor decided to pop the question during a romantic vacation in Cancun, Mexico. Sam accepted his proposal in a heartbeat, and the two immediately got to work planning their dream wedding. The couple was quick to decide on a return to Cancun for their destination wedding, determined to marry in front of their friends and family at the place where it all began. Unfortunately, this was not meant to be. Just one day after the couple returned from a wedding planning trip in late 2014, Sam received heartbreaking news. Apparently, her mother's multiple sclerosis had worsened to the point that she'd be unable to travel to Cancun for the wedding. Sam knew she couldn't enjoy her big day without her mother present, so the couple quickly scrapped their plans in favor of a venue closer to home. But after several months spent planning the wedding, in California, the couple was hit with another tragic setback. After severe pain in her side sent her to the doctors, Sam's mother was diagnosed with colon cancer. With the doctor's prognosis not looking good, Sam and Taylor resolved to postpone their wedding indefinitely. Following the diagnosis, Sam relocated from her home in Redondo Beach to Simi Valley in order to care for her mother, opting to see Taylor only on weekends. It was also during this time that Sam began researching cheap wedding ideas, but none of them really blew her away. Then she discovered The Knot. According to their website, The Knot ran a dream wedding competition that fully funded the wedding expenses for one lucky couple. But there was a catch. Every detail of the wedding, from the ceremony to the honeymoon, would be voted on by the American public. While most brides would scoff at the idea of having someone else plan their entire wedding, Sam felt this would be perfect for her and Taylor. The planning would be handled by America, allowing all of my attention to remain on my mom's situation, Sam told The Knot. Sam entered the competition, and wouldn't you know it, she won. With America taking care of their wedding, Sam and Taylor were finally free to focus on their family. All that was left for them to do on their big day was say I do. On June 4th, 2015, Sam and Taylor arrived at the Chateau St. John and were amazed at the wedding that had been planned for them. Although the couple had been prepared for this day for what seemed like forever, they never expected what came next. For their first dance as a married couple, Sam and Taylor chose the song Love You Like That by Cannon Smith. Just listening to the song makes us both smile and reminds us of each other, our relationship, and our love for one another, said Taylor. But just as they began dancing, the band abruptly cut out. You know, we have a better idea, one of the musicians announced to the couple. Sam and Taylor, we have a special guest who's here to sing you your first dance song. Before they could react, Sam and Taylor turned and spotted Cannon Smith himself walking toward them. Courtesy of The Knot, the country singer had flown out to California to deliver the couple a surprise of a lifetime. The newlyweds were in disbelief as Smith took the stage and began performing Love You Like That right in front of them. However, Sam and Taylor went right back to dancing, happily singing along with Smith and the band as they played. That was beyond our wildest dreams, a stunned Sam relayed as she exited the dance floor. That threw us for a loop when they stopped the music, and we said, "What's going on? Did they forget the song?" We were like, "What happened?" Sam added, "We've loved that song from the second we heard it. I showed it to Taylor, and I said, 'Taylor, I think this should be our wedding dance song.' And he was like, 'Oh, absolutely.'" Despite all the hardships and struggles, Sam and Taylor were still able to have the wedding of their dreams. Regardless of what the future holds for the couple and their family, Sam and Taylor's wedding day will be one that neither they nor their guests will ever forget.